Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Coaching. My name is Kevin Britz. I'm an executive coach and international leadership facilitator and the host to the Lunchtime series happening every day at 12. Today we have a wonderful guest who has been on the show before and returning with some really useful, wonderful content. The founder of Shapeshifter Consulting. Welcome back, Liezl Reid. Hello, Liezl. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. It's nice to be back and nice to see your face again.
Yes, thank you. I know that you've also kept track of all the lunchtime shows, and what's beautiful about it is you were one of the first coaches to actually chat with me and give us some wonderful insight. So, thank you for that. Thank you for helping me create this wonderful platform and conversation. Today you've sent us some really nice, interesting information. I'm not going to preface anything. I'm just going to say, what are we talking about and what value add are we sharing today?
So basically, I'd really want to touch, because it's Women's Month, and I really wanted to touch on women entrepreneurship, because and this is not going to be another talk about COVID and the pandemic, although we'll touch on it because we can't get away from it. Yes. I'm fatigued reading and talking about it, but yes, it is the reality. But basically what I would really want to touch on is women entrepreneurs. I myself is an entrepreneur, and I started a business just before this lockdown happened. And, you know, and there's a lot of talks about how businesses are pivoting, and this word pivot is like coming out everywhere. But what I'm actually seeing is I'm again seeing the importance of creativity. So I kind of want to talk today about how creativity can really be like almost like a superpower for women entrepreneurs, regardless of the situation that they find themselves in.
I'm so glad that you preface it like that. It's one of the references I've used a lot of in my coaching when I'm chatting to people is it boils down to how do I really hone in and find what my superpower is, because when you get your brain on board with what that looks like, then suddenly it not only starts showing up in your universe, your world, your environment, it also feels really good. So I'm glad that you're using it in that sense, and I'm really keen on hearing more about the superpower.
Yeah. So basically, I know our previous sessions we spoke a lot about divergent thinking and how you can really look at possibilities and reframing your situation. However, the environment that we are in, and it's not just based on the pandemic, the environment in the business environment always changes. It's so fluid. It's actually ridiculous. So whether it's a pandemic, whether it's an economic crisis, whether it is a strike, whatever it could be, the essence of today I'd really like to show is that creativity is basically something where your environment can really hone in on what is your superpower needed for that period of time. And what I've noticed is that creativity helps you find the superpower, and it's a superpower in itself. I know the previous time we also spoke about creative destruction, and I went and fetched the story right from the forefathers of creativity with J.P. Guilford, and there's actually another guy that's like even in the 50s that spoke about this creative destruction. But what's lovely about seeing how creativity is involved from the arts and the culture space, and it's really started like almost infiltrating into the business world, and there's a lot of it now, but there is just not enough specifically for the women entrepreneur. And where I want to leave, when I want to take that story again, I'm fetching the story right from behind the mountains.
Yes,
is basically women. We have so many roles. I mean, myself, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I have friends. I mean, I'm a mother to furry children. I've got all these. I was a homeschool teacher for quite a lot of the time. I'm an entrepreneur, businesswoman, coach. Oh, I can go on and on and on, depending on the context.
Yeah.
And basically what it was is really going to see what is out there, thinking very smartly and creatively about how do I bring all of this together. So that's where I'd like to start us off today.
I think that's such an important factor. I think, in celebration of Women's Month, and that's been quite an active role that I've been Yeah, having and it's a theme in South Africa where we're going. We want to celebrate the woman in the world, and I think one of the coaches recently mentioned she works with leaders. And she poignantly said, not only leaders who run a business, but if you're leading an environment, if you're leading a home, if you're leading, and she prefaced it that way. And I thought, I like the way that that's sort of put together, because essentially one of the key elements that's coming out from a lot of the discussions, especially from empowering women and women in leadership positions, is the roles that they are playing and how important that is in understanding what that means, first of all, and how to juggle that and how to do it more effectively. So please share with us, what that is and how creativity in itself ties together. How do we do this?
So if we really go back in history, and the one forefather that I spoke to you about it's basically Joseph Schumpeter. So in the 1930s, he wrote a book about the theory of entrepreneurship. But although it's quite old and everything, but the one takeaway from that's always stuck with me was basically combining the things and the forces that are within your reach. And then those combinations lead to something that's unique to the individual. So if we look at what this pandemic has caused us, some people, like I've been fortunate that it's actually enhanced my business. Well, the first couple of weeks, no, I had to go and sit, okay, let's scratch the business plan that I had.
Yes.
How do I adapt? How do I make this a viable continuation of my business and my service offering? I know that other people, from the negative point of view, have lost their jobs and they've been made redundant, or had to take a salary pay cut or whatever it is. But that kind of almost forced them. It kind of like pushed them to becoming entrepreneurs in themselves. Yeah. I've heard of wonderful stories, actually, although it's kind of grim in the beginning, where some of my favorite designers in Cape Town and furniture interior designers and everybody have closed their shops. But when I follow them on Instagram and I see that they're still going, they just made it online, or they bought a different premises. They kind of adapted to the situation. Yeah. And what's interesting is that how going through something that's challenging, like being made redundant or being made where your salary is cut and you have to now all of a sudden find a source of income to support yourself, pay your rent, all those things. That's kind of where the guy from the Schumpeter guy from the 1950s said, is combining the things and the forces within your reach. Then J.P. Guilford came along with the whole divergent thinking, where it was exploration of possibilities. So when I am in this slump, or if I am in this really uncertain situation, what are my possibilities? That's where the creativity comes in. Yeah. And somebody I really want to touch with, and I want to share a model with you today, which is a little bit more modern. And because of the celebration of women and women empowerment, I follow this woman's work. I've been following for a number of years now, and yeah. She is absolutely my idol. And her name is Professor Teresa Amabile, and she's a professor at Harvard. So she's done creative studies in creativity for over 40 years, and she's basically come up with 3 components of creativity. But that is basically to look at the person as a holistic individual. So that's where you combine the expertise. You go look at what does your creative thinking skills actually look like, and what are your motivations. So that's where that whole push and pull factor. So some of us get pushed towards becoming an entrepreneur because we have to. It's unfortunately the only situation we've got. But then we have someone like I was pulled to the entrepreneurship. So because I have a passion, I have a skill that I wanted to share and add value to the world. So that's kind of almost bridging between the whole pull and push factor. But at the end of the day, the principle is how do we use creativity to create something positive, even from a negative point of view.
I'm just loving that you're bringing up the importance of adapting and boundaries, and and what the possibilities are. And we were chatting to Margaret Hirsch this week, and one of the things she sort of touched on was she thoroughly believes that you always need a second income, and so she entices people, to even her own employees, to go out there and sell more and do more and have a second income. And one of her employees actually owns his own furniture store, so he supplies her furniture when she needs stuff, and she can, and I thought, how many people have even thought that way? Like, in itself. And the one thing that comes up is, there's enough sunshine for, to go around. So why not just share it with everyone and enable people more? And I really, I think it lends itself so well to having a bit of creative thinking around this, because, and without having to sound like a stuck record, right now we need creative thinking. We need it. We need to be able to sit down and readjust and remodel how we've done life. So absolutely, I love that that this is a topic of discussion today.
Yeah, I got very excited yesterday with Margaret. I tuned in and I heard her telling the story of the second income stream, and I almost thought, from an HR perspective, my HR hat, I thought, what a nightmare, because we have to, a lot of companies still have the exclusive service agreements in place that you have to contractually almost like really put all your effort and energy into the one venture. And I thought that was so refreshing. And it's almost, it's kind of such a topical topic at the moment is, yes, we are now cutting salaries, or people have become redundant. Fine. But that doesn't mean that their skills disappear. It doesn't mean that they don't have passions and interests that lies elsewhere outside the traditional workplace. And Absolutely. When she said that, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And also that the reciprocal relationship between that, almost like that understanding, is that if I need furniture for my office or my showroom, I know who to phone, and I will be supporting a small local business person in the environment. And something for myself as well, I've really made an effort of really supporting small business owners now. I might have gone away from the bigger shops and stuff like that, but I mean, at the moment, it's all about supporting small businesses, and that's how you do it. It's through bigger, like Hirsch, like a big corporation or big company that's well known, still supporting the small guys. I mean, that is brilliant. That is so inspiring.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because part of what I've done, like you, when all of this happened a couple of months ago, I completely freaked out. I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? For me, my business model has specifically been based on training. So I needed to be in front of people. I needed to be in the same room as you. And the moment this happened, I was like, oh, wow, so now what? So how do I even do what I'm doing? And suddenly, because I had a bit of, stepping back and creative thinking around it, my brain also went to that space of going, okay, what's bigger than this moment? And how do I reach more for more than this moment? And the moment I did that, it felt like everything just started falling into place. It was like, and now, 3-4 months later, I'm working with international clients, and I'm going, wow, okay, 6 months ago, if you said to me, well, you're going to have wonderful new international clients that you'll be working with, you'll be, doing a lot more coaching, and you'd have an online series that you'll be like never in a million years. Like, I would never have thought that. But suddenly, because of my environment and because of that bit of pressure, it was a requirement for me to get my brain on board with what is bigger than this moment. And, that simply comes back to this: how do I creatively think around this problem? And, I know that you have a share for us on screen today. Don't you want to share that with us and sort of talk us through the why this is important and, what we can take away from this?
Sure, and I think maybe we should take I'm going to share it now, and I'll show you the model. So the model I'm showing you is Teresa Amabile's the three components of creativity. Can you see it on your side?
It's loading. It's loading. There we go. Okay,
Sure.
3 components of creativity. I love it.
So maybe I'm gonna be a little bit of the rebel today on your show.
Please go right ahead.
Let's take you through this model.
Oh, damn.
All right, you just explained it. If you wanted to call it lunchtime coaching, so coaching's gonna happen now.
Please, if I'm the advocate for coaching, so if someone can teach me something, I'm like, please teach me, because I absolutely love the processes. Learning is one of my highest values. So please pull me through it. So let's go.
All right. So if we look at this, so basically, I got this from How to Kill Creativity. It's written. This model was actually developed in 1983, so it's quite a while back. But the reason why I still come back to it is because it's simple, it's easy to understand, and I think it sums up quite a lot of our challenges and our almost the way where we are right now. So let's go back to what you just said to me earlier. Now, when you said right in the beginning of this. You were also thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get back to people? And now, 6 months later, you're talking internationally on a platform that has grown tremendously. And I've had the privilege to see it also grow. And I get so excited to see all the posts that's happening, and you having an array of the diversity you were talking about. Yeah. And it's brilliant, because it really, what it does, it broadens your mind. So if you had to take yourself back 6 months ago, so basically what we're looking here is we are looking at the expertise, right? So you still have, regardless of what's happening.
So Liezl, I just want to, for anyone that's not seeing the screen, I just want to preface what we have on screen right now. So we have 3 circles and 3 colored circles sort of overlapping each other, and we're sort of speaking about those 3 areas, and the one is the expertise. So please carry on.
So this is actually called the Venn diagram. So where the overlapping occurs, right in the middle is the center point, almost like that sweet spot that you really need to get to. And basically what we are looking here at is, if we look at your expertise, that's your foundation. So you came 6 months ago, you still had the knowledge, whether it was gained from education, your experience, working with your clients, all of those things. That is what you had. You had it in your pocket. That was your knowledge. Then basically you still had the motivation right here. So you'll see that, although it was probably not a very comfortable space to be in, but creativity happens when you climb outside of that comfortable, safe box, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then obviously whatever the lockdown thing happened, and what did your motivation at the end of the day look like? So if we have to take you back 6 months ago, what was your motivation at that point?
My motivation to start, or my motivation to in general?
To adapt.
So strangely enough, and this is why it's such a phenomenal process that you're talking about here, because my motivation came through listening to business owners and people out there going, we are struggling, we don't know what to do, we don't know where to go from here. Please, how do we get help? What are we doing? And my brain I sat there going, well, what do I have? And that, I have the expertise, I have a whole bunch of knowledge I can share, but how do I do that? And how do I involve more people to be able to spread more information, so that, practically we are helping people with I don't know, 3 or 5 or 10 little points that can actually change their life or make them think something. So my motivation purely came from the fact that I was listening and thinking, wow, how do I help? How do I, it's not like I have the money just to spread around, but how do I help in other ways?
And that's the thing is that it came from inside. You found your inner work, basically. Yeah. You wanted to do something, and you wanted to add value at the end of the day. Yes, so that's where so that's the intrinsic motivation. When you look at your passions, your interests, what it is that you want to emanate and give back to the world. So that's their passions and things. And that's often where, in times of trouble, that's your starting point. Go back to who you are. Find your why. I know you've had a few coaches that speak on this, and that's what I'm loving to continue the conversation is, what is your why? That is the foundation. And a lot of people are saying it. You can go on LinkedIn. I mean, there's a million people that are talking about finding your why. And that's absolutely true, because when you say why, then you go how, when, and, then it always cascades to something else. And then sorry?
I want to just make that point as well is, a lot of people have mentioned the why, and people have been speaking about Simon Sinek for I don't know how long already. And a lot of people know about your why. They know, like, oh, my why, my why. I think the key ingredient, and that is what is really pressed upon people in the last 6 months, is the key ingredient is, do you live the why? Do you actually get up every day and day to day, hour by hour, and kind of go, okay, this is why I do what I do?
Yeah. So exactly, and that's the power, and that's why I'm going to get to the superpower part, because if we go into working, the full-time job, like I used to work for companies, and I loved my job, but the predominant thing what you did is you were basically going for the extrinsic reward. That's the salary every month, the bonuses, the performance appraisals, all that extrinsic things that are outside of who you are inside. Yeah. So when you are left with those extrinsic rewards, like you said, you weren't sure where was the money going to come from, how am I going to pay my bills? That's fine, it'll come hopefully. But start with what's inside, and then you move out. So inner to outer. Yeah. And if we move on, this is where creative thinking and the thinking skills is the flexibility. So the flexibility and adaptability, that open-mindedness, that you can really almost flex your thinking muscles, or go and look at what is your expertise, what can I offer, what do I want to do, what is my why in terms of my purpose in life, what is the value I want to add into the world, and then basically imagining something that you could do. So for example, if you wanted to create a platform for the radio, we take your case again, a platform for radio programs to start listening to people that talk about interesting topics, having to connect not just with people in Cape Town and Durban and Bloemfontein, but also, international. That's called imagination right in the beginning. Like you said, if someone said that to you 6 months ago, you would have probably laughed and said, nah.
I love that you're mentioning this. This is so important. And I love that you've shared it in such a structured manner, because one of the things, and if you look at my Instagram page, you'll see that one of the key messaging or messages that I'm driving, that I constantly drive, is the question, what if? What if you did this? What if, and the other one is, and I hashtag it what if, and the other one is hashtag imagine. You don't have the answers right now, but imagine if whatever, and you end that sentence. And I think exactly what you're saying now, it really does live in the imagination. It's like, how can I put information together, and what potentially could be viable? What potentially could be true or could be possible in this moment right now? And I really, I can't think of the word now, but I think that is the success of why this has sort of become what it has for my life and so many other coaches at the moment, sharing valuable information like that. And it's purely based on the fact that it was born in imagination, and it's lived there, and it's just come to life from it.
Yeah. And then if you look at the last bit of that, and that's where it comes to life, is that sweet spot in the middle. That's where the magic happens. If you look at your expertise, you look at what you've got. So what this other guy said right in the beginning is, you look at the things you have, the accessibility and the functions and the skills that you've got. And if you have a motivation, what is this motivation? But start off with you, and you go and you exercise the creative thinking skills. And I'm not talking about, you don't need to be an expert in divergent thinking, but just to imagine. And I'm going to stop sharing now, because then basically that was what I wanted to show.
Fantastic.
But basically, and that's the reason why I follow JP Guilford's work, and I'm an absolute fan of Teresa Amabile, because they believe that creativity is for everybody. So, and I think I've mentioned it in my think shops before, where every single human on this earth have the ability to think creativity. What is different between us and those creative geniuses like Picasso or Mondrian or whatever is basically the degree of creativity.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we don't need to have that degree of creativity. All you need to do is ask a simple question, keeping it simple. So in my coaching practice, I would be saying is, what do you have? What do you currently have? What is it that you want to portray and emanate to the world? And what can you imagine yourself doing if you could really do anything possibly? So, and then that's where the conversation starts and the idea comes and sparks to life. And that's why I call it a superpower. So even during now, you might be a woman that have just been laid off or retrenched. Go look at what is it that still makes you tick. What is it that you would like? You have the opportunity to start something. I mean, I've now heard I've got friends that started to become painters, but because it was a hobby. But now they're like, hey, maybe I can really hone the skill. Yeah. I've read beautiful stories on LinkedIn about how this almost tragedy of losing your job has created her to actually go and create a business and add value to some other people that would never have been even fathomable before. So it's going a little bit out of your comfort zone, but then going to look at who you are, what I can do, and what do I want to do. So that's basically, in a nutshell, a very big nutshell, the 3 components of creativity that I really wanted to share today.
I thank you. I thank you for sharing it as well, because I think it's such an important conversation to have. And I know I sound like a broken record, but for me, without having to sound esoterical, because a lot of people, when you speak about imagination, people go, oh yeah, it's like touchy-feely stuff. I'm not really into that. But yet, we all have the imagination to do that, right? And you've given us a practical tool of literally like sitting down and getting my brain on board with what that potentially could be. And I often, when I do, also from my coaching sessions, I also get people to imagine. Just imagine in 6 months from today, this thing that you want to achieve. Imagine what it is and what it looks like. And then I really want people to eventually get to that point where they're feeling it. It's like, if you really get to that point and you really understand, okay, well, that's the thing I'm imagining, tell me what the feeling is associated to that. And suddenly, literally on the screen, you can see people smile and they come like, wow, that's such a, and they have some kind of relation to that, But from a different aspect, from neuroscience and understanding how the brain puts information together, if your brain doesn't have some indication on what it may potentially look like, your brain will never figure out how to get there. You really want your brain to have some indicator of going, okay, that's a potential step I could be taking. That's potentially possible. And it's in the potential that we live in that suddenly things are created. I remember when I started my business, someone just said to me, why don't you just teach people what you know? Because most of my life I've been on stage, I've been a performer. And I was like, yeah, I can teach people how to do that. And at that moment, I was doing a lot of radio ads, and my aim was to be able to teach people how to be on radio or be on stage and feel comfortable being able to speak, and present themselves. So everything you're saying resonates so fantastically, and I love that it's you put it in such a structured manner. So essentially, this is what you do, right? You help people think creatively to reach bigger potentials. You do workshops on this. Don't you want to just touch on some of that, just so people have an idea of more of that?
Yeah, so basically I had to giggle at the one sentence for the brief of today of like, what is your title? What do you do? And I'm like, well, my title is coach, professional coach. I don't even know what type of coach anymore. An HR advisor. But what I actually do is I empower people to really think for themselves. And when I say think for themselves, and I've said it a few times, and clients that might watch this will probably giggle because I do say this, and I say it with force, is that I make you think. I do. When I ask you, when you say imagine something, some people, like you said, it's like, oh, it's too fluffy business, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Fine, that's great, but you're going to do this now. Even if you just have to, even if it's just like, not even just, even if it's just like a tiny imagination, like a tiny little thing, doesn't matter. But so basically it's getting someone, but we're not just always looking at the future and the possibilities. Actually, where you start off is what you currently have in place. So really unpacking what are your value systems? What is your ecosystem? So what's your network? Who are your support systems? What do you have currently? And then you imagine something in the future so that you can almost like kind of pull patterns and themes together that could say, I didn't know I knew that person that could help me to do something I wanted to do. I know it sounds a bit weird, but so that's basically what I do. Is I focus on people's thinking, and I focus on people's creative techniques of thinking, so brainstorming things. And the lovely thing about doing it, I do a lot of relationship mapping and then asking, and if we go off on a tangent, you go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I always ask, okay, so what is the big takeout here that you didn't sign up on the coaching session with? And I do think shops where it's more like a group coaching session. I haven't done one in a while. I'm thinking of doing one soon. But it's just getting people to think a little bit outside. And I know this is a cliche, out of the box, but it really is a box that we put ourselves in. So to try and find other experiences out there.
Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, we could have an even longer conversation, but if people want to get hold of you, where do we get hold of you, and how do we do that?
So I do have a website, www.shapeshifter.co.za, but you can WhatsApp me, call me, my number. I don't know if I can give my number out, 083-406-0542. Or just email me, Liezl@shapeshifter.co.za. I'm also on Instagram. I try and be very quirky, but I'm not very good at it. And I do have a Facebook page as well. So I think, and LinkedIn. Of course, we are on LinkedIn. We're all professionals, aren't we?
Yes, on LinkedIn. Fantastic. Liezl, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing the creativity, and thank you for making us think. Thank you for putting it down into a bit of a structured format. I love that. I'm so going to use it, when I need to think about some stuff. Thank you. And I will see you online, guys. All the information will be in the description box below, as per usual. This is lunchtime coaching sessions, and this goes out every weekday at 12 o'clock. Liezl, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me back.
And thanks for being here. It's been such fun.
Okay. Bye.
Chat to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.